Well, thank you for staying with us. This week, Justice of the Supreme Court upheld the election of Abba Yusuf as Governor of Kano State, reversing the decision of the Court of Appeal and the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which sacked the governor. Other governors who also got a note of the Supreme Court are Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi, Francis Wufuru of Ebonyi, Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau, Dauda Lawal of Zamfara, and Alex Oti of Abia State, and Basi Oto of Cross Rivers. I have joining me to discuss this Justice Ojeno, lawyer and lead partner, ECO solicitors and advocates. Good evening and welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
All right, let's just say there's no more distractions to governance running at full pace, and now the Supreme Court has given its judgment. But let's have your take on this ruling. Any surprises?
Okay, for me, I'm actually very, very happy with the way it went. I was very, very scared, especially for Kano, for Plateau, and for Zamfara states. All the other states, well, it went as we would reasonably expected it to have gone. But even as a practitioner and as an expert in this space, I was scared because I didn't know how Kano would go. I didn't know how Zamfara would go. And I couldn't even guess how Plateau would go. But I'm extremely happy that the way it all went, all tensions were doused, all nerves were calmed, and I'm very, very grateful to the justices of the Supreme Court for actually exercising so much wisdom, not necessarily outside of the law, as a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are saying that the decisions are largely political, but I don't think so. They went frontally and they didn't. There was no holds barred.
All right, let's also talk about how the law will affect the legislators who were sacked by appellate courts, wrongful ruling. You know, as appointed by Justice Okoro, how do you think this should go? Do you think the decision should be reviewed? Okay,
for me, it's a very, very sad one, and these are some of the instances where I actually tell people that sometimes even the judiciary can have it wrong, including the Supreme Court, and I can easily rely on the popular statement of late Honorable Justice Chukwudifo Okuta, when he says that even the Supreme Court is not infallible, so even the Supreme Court can make mistakes. So if we say that, okay, this matter, maybe because it terminated at the Court of Appeal level, maybe if it had gone to the Supreme Court, that there's a tendency that there won't be any mistake. Maybe on this one, yes, but there are other issues too where the Supreme Court can also make mistakes. I have argued that the only institution or the only judge or justice that can never, ever be wrong in its judgment is the Almighty God. So since it's not the Almighty God that is sitting in the affairs of men in this situation, then we should be able to, even though it is very, very difficult, be able to just swallow the bitter pill of, okay, human beings making fatal errors as the Court of Appeal did in this situation. It pains me to a large extent for, not just for the about 25 people who were affected by the miscarriage of justice, despite all settled laws that the Court of Appeal had to decide on this particular case, but much more the people that these representatives are representing. I just pray that this doesn't repeat itself.
So there's no way out for them?
It's only God. And I say this against the background of the fact that the Supreme Court cannot even review it. We must always be reminded that electoral matters are sui generis. They are in a class of their own. They are not dealt with like other general matters. It is extremely sensitive, it is extremely legal and extremely constitutional, and by that I mean that the courts stick strictly to the provisions as provided by not just the Electoral Act, but also the Constitution. So as it stands, some of the things that will affect some of the things that will make judicial review practically impossible is because there's a timeline for filing, there's a timeline for appeal, and all those timelines have long expired. So the Supreme Court, being a court too that is created by the Constitution, and of course the Supreme Court Act also gives it some powers, is subject to those laws, and those two laws do not give it the power to review an electoral matter. So it is very, very unfortunate, and it is very, very painful that even though it is apparent to everybody that this is an injustice committed to the people of Plateau State, it is not one of such cases where we can say that where there is a wrong.
What are the implications of such a thing?
The implication is that a majority of the people, especially of Plateau State, may feel cheated. They may have some loss of confidence in the judiciary. But as much as possible, we should still try to prevail upon them that it is in everybody's best interest that we all abide by the rule of law. We apparently see that it is wrong what the appellate courts did, and the Supreme Court too didn't spare any chastisement against the various panels of the Court of Appeal, but we should just try to let it be, let sleeping dogs lie. It's so unfortunate. Yeah,
you did mention how the court should stick strictly to the electoral reform. And, you know, when this news broke, you see headlines saying something like, Supreme Court corrects the wrongdoing of the appeal court, something like that. And I just want to know, what are the lessons in this ruling, especially for the political parties, INEC, and as well the courts? Because you hear most of the rulings saying the court, ruled wrongly, or even the political parties, they get to bring on board something that should be resolved internally and all of that. And the lawyers as well, sometimes it looks as if they don't know, but it's obvious they know, but I don't know. What are the lessons?
Okay, for me, majorly, I think that the issue of internal democracy, the fact that what a party does within itself, especially in the Plateau State case, what a political party does within its ranks, as much as possible, should not be the business of another political party. And the courts, too, the lesson they learn from this is they will not touch it with a long spoon. They are reminded and chastised that matters of internal democracy are non-justiciable. They are not matters that the court should try to rule on or decide on. They should treat it the way Chapter 2 of our Constitution is being treated, which are non-justiciable matters. It is not a matter that you can bring to court to sue on. As for the lawyers, it's going to be, it's my constituency. Yeah, of course. I know that as much as possible, it is the client that says, okay, this is what I want. Sometimes the client can say, test it in court. And the courts too have abundantly said that if it's a principle of law, a lawyer is at liberty to come and test it. And it is for the judge to say, no, don't do that, not in my court, this cannot fly, because it is just a principle of law that the court has the capacity to cut down, because a lawyer has to actually earn its fees. And the way he earns its fees is by demonstrating industry to try to swerve the court in the direction of his own client. So lawyers may not be, especially on this kind of issues, may not be blamed for this, because it's not so much outside of what we do in courts every day, which is advancing various arguments in order to try to get the court to decide in favor of our own clients. But there are times when it is unconscionable. And when it is unconscionable and a practical total waste of the court's time, or a temptation, or trying to bring the reputation of the Temple of Justice down, the justices of the Supreme Court don't waste any time to chastise the lawyers and punish them directly.
All right. This week, President Bola Tinubu suspended all administered programs by the National Social Investment Program Agency. According to Sherwood Imohisen, Director of Information and the Office of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the action was in light of the ongoing investigation of alleged malfeasance in the management of the agency and its programs. He said all 4 programs administered by NSPA, which are NPower Program, Conditional Cash Transfer Program, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, and Homegrown School Feeding Program, suspended for a period of 6 weeks in the first instance. He noted that the president has therefore constituted a ministerial panel to conduct a thorough review of the agency's operations with a view of recommending necessary reforms of the NSIPA. As you have Justice Ojenu with me, you know, this is not peculiar with this administration. This has been an ongoing issue, you know, associated with these programs, you know, the corruption, the diverting of the funds and all of that. But I want you to talk about how timely is this president's intervention to put it on hold and put a searchlight on it. How timely is it?
I think it's prompt. It's very prompt. It ordinarily not to have been earlier than this because he had to also dispatch investigators to look into it. And as an outsider, after seeing the way it was all put on hold, I think it is very, very prompt. And I think it is very, very positive too, especially when it comes to the perception of Nigerians. It is very, very unfortunate that it is in this kind of ministry that this kind of suspension is happening because a lot of people are going to be affected. But much more people are being affected by the fact that it hadn't been suspended much earlier, maybe even before this administration, because a lot of people are using it as conduits for grand larceny, which is now depriving the larger Commonwealth of what government finances, the benefits that government finances, proper government finances is supposed to afford them.
Okay, so let's talk about where and how you want this reform of this program to start, the implementation of it and all of that, to make it more viable, to make it achieve what it's supposed to be for. Okay,
for me, I think that the president has made another very, very important step in the right direction by instituting a very, very high committee for the purpose of revamping the whole process. I feel that there should be a serious revamp. The data that is currently being used to take care of the various beneficiaries, I feel that to a large extent is faulty and should be overhauled almost entirely. That's number one. Number two thing, which falls within my own jurisdiction, is the matter of legal due diligence and enforcement. A lot of persons should be made to know that if your hand is caught in the till, you will be punished. It doesn't matter how high you are within the wrong, and it doesn't matter how low you are within the wrong, you will not be spared. The law enforcement, the EFCC, the Financial Fraud Unit, the ICPC will be dispatched against you. And aside from having these external enforcement, we should also have internal mechanisms within the ministry to ensure that there is regular audit and also ensuring that due process is followed to the hilt. The minister shouldn't be signing what the minister shouldn't sign. It should be the head of accounts. It should be the minister of finance that should do some things when it touches on money, and a myriad other things that can make the situation in that ministry better.
So I don't know if you agree with those that said it's not just humanitarian affairs minister or ministry that should have this search-lights. I don't know if you agree with
100%. I agree with you. It's very, very unfortunate that it's the Ministry of Foreign Humanitarian Affairs that it happened to. And Jacinta, I'm sorry to also say that it is women that seem to be caught this period. It looked like, okay, it has been the men all along, but I feel that the satellite should also be beamed into various other ministries, and I'm very, very sure that some similitude of what we have seen in humanitarian affairs will also be seen in other ministries, and decisive actions, as has been demonstrated with this one, should also be demonstrated with those ones.
Okay, while I want to agree with that, that is searchlight or whatever that is now on the women, the men too are there, and we've had to bring most of them into question. And as well, finally on this topic, can you tell us, generally speaking, how you think this program can be improved? Going forward, how can such programs be improved, not to entertain such corruption and all of that?
Okay, first thing is, there shouldn't be personal dispatching to beneficiaries. Everything should be digitized. We should be able to forensically trace who and who is getting this money. We should also verify even the beneficiaries. We should ensure that, okay, there are no ghost beneficiaries. We should ensure that there are no people that are taking more than they deserve. We should ensure that even the contracting procedure, if we say school feeding program, for example, who are the persons getting the contracts? Is it being inflated? So all those processes and procedures should be revamped in order for us to cut down on waste, because as we are as a country, we are in dire need of extra cash, so we cannot even be wasteful of the little that we have.
Right, Justice. All right, finally, this week, the president took a step towards the reduction of the curse of governance. President Bola Tinubu directed all the entourage to state and international events be drastically reduced by 60%. The president also directed that on every local trip of the government, the security details will be drafted from the host state. According to the new directive, the president will now travel with only 20 officials, no longer over 50. The vice president will now travel with 5 officials, the first lady and the wife of the vice president, also 5 officials, respectively. For local trips, the number of the entourage of the president has been reduced to 25. The vice president, 15, the first lady and the wife of the vice, 10. He also said that the enforced minister's delegation for foreign trips will be a maximum of 4 officials, while the heads of the ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, will travel with the maximum of 2 officials. I have Olufemi Lawson joining me to discuss this. I don't know if we'll fix the audio with him, but let me start with you. Let me continue with you, Justice, on this. This has been a long call by Nigerians, cutting the cost of governance, and now the president has intervened. But, you know, there are controversies. Do you think the 60% is not enough, like Nigerians are arguing?
There's a place, we have to start from somewhere. We can't just say, okay, whatever. What if we say, if we want to go as drastic as some people are asking for, should the president travel alone? Maybe that's some people's argument. If he feels that, okay, this thing has been a practice since the beginning of time as far as Nigeria is concerned. So if we, for the first time in history, have a president who directly listened to the direct and very, very dire yearning of the Nigerian people by saying that cut down on the cost of governance, cut down on the cost of governance. And the president decides that, okay, he will do it. He also implemented it for his vice president and for his cabinet ministers. I feel that we should be first grateful after we take this as a personal strategy. That's what I do. After we take this, we should ask for more, like Oliver Twist, but not just out of the woods, practically go out to criticize everything the government does, even when it is significantly in the right direction.
All right, another concern is how to reduce the attraction to public office. How do you think this can, you know, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely. First, the perks of office is too much. If it is, first, we even need to reorientate persons who are vying for political office in Nigeria. That this place is for service. It's for service.
Not for personal interest.
It's not for personal interest. It's not for them to be served as royals. So maybe after the orientation, then definitely and frontally, the agency of government, the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission should also be told that they should cut down on whatever it is they are prescribing as the perks of office, because sometimes it's not just the salaries. We can see the salaries and say, okay, this is reasonable. But what of all the allowances, innumerable allowances, furniture, sitting, and all for politicians of all cadres, where the average Nigerian doesn't even have any of such benefits. So these are some of the lines that we should be looking towards in order to reduce the attraction to the office, if the person that is going to the office is being attracted by the monies.
All right, aside this trip, which other area would you see the cost of governance reduce, brought down? Which other area?
First, the ministries and departments of government, especially the ones that have been proven to not be that effective, they should be merged or totally and outrightly unbundled. That's number one. Number two, the equipment that we are using, the equipment that the politicians are using, for example, the vehicles that they are using, it can be locally sourced. So if it is locally sourced, first, the price will definitely drop. And aside from the fact that the price is being definitely dropped, then whatever it is, it's going to generate employment and all as a secondary benefit to the Nigerian people. There are other things too that politicians acquire that may not be in the faith that the average Nigerian may not be aware of. How do they furnish their offices? How do they furnish the offices of agencies and departments of government? Are they using the local alternative, or are they bringing it from abroad? So these are the things that the politicians or our leaders need to put in place. The very clothes that they are wearing, are they transiting to the local alternative? I'm very, very happy that our president is not one that is wearing suits like I am wearing. I have to wear suits because this is the line of my work, and my profession practically almost commands it. And I also feel that we should also look into the profession and look for a way to adjust on that. But that and a myriad other things can be done as low-hanging fruits in order to be able to save this much and dire needed, especially forex that we need as a country.
All right, Justice Ojenu, thank you very much for your contributions so far. And we also regret that Olufemi Losi couldn't join us. He was supposed to be part of the conversation. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And as well, thank you for being part of the show. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. Until next week, it's goodbye.